The White House is backing an intriguing proposal for Tony Blair to lead a transitional authority in Gaza, stirring mixed reactions. As reported by various Israeli media outlets, this plan suggests that the former British Prime Minister would head a temporary administration for the Gaza Strip, initially without direct involvement from the Palestinian Authority, PA. This initiative, known as the Gaza International Transitional Authority, Gita, would grant Blair the role of overseeing what is intended to be a supreme political and legal authority in Gaza for a period of up to 5 years. Reports from prominent outlets such as Haaretz and the Times of Israel indicate that the framework for this plan is inspired by the transitional administrations that once guided Timor-Leste and Kosovo toward independence. Initially, it is proposed that Gita could be established in El Arish, an Egyptian provincial capital adjacent to Gaza's southern border, with plans for it to eventually enter Gaza. The entry would likely occur alongside a UN-backed multinational force, predominantly made up of Arab nations, with the overarching goal of eventually unifying all Palestinian territories under the PA. Crucially, this proposal assures that Palestinians currently residing in the territory would not be forced to relocate, a significant concern given earlier U.S. suggestions that envisioned Gaza being transformed into a tourist hub dubbed the Gaza Riviera. Should this plan be approved, Blair would lead a secretariat comprised of around 25 individuals and head a board consisting of 7 members tasked with managing the administration of the territory. However, the mere thought of Blair taking on such a role is bound to spark contentious debates and varying opinions. Since leaving office in 2007, he served as the Middle East envoy until 2015, maintaining good relations with many Gulf leaders. Yet he remains deeply disliked among sections of the Palestinian population who view him as an obstacle in their pursuit of statehood. Additionally, his support for the 2003 U.S.-led invasion of Iraq has left many in the region with lingering grievances against him. It's important to note that Western diplomats have cautioned that Blair's appointment is not yet a certainty, with some indicating that this transitional administration could only last for 2 years. This idea of a transitional authority arose just after the United Nations General Assembly endorsed an alternative plan advocating for a technocratic administration in Gaza. This latter plan, dubbed the New York Declaration, proposes that the interim leadership operates for a single year, after which power would allegedly transition back to a restructured PA, following elections to choose a new president and parliament. A lack of a clearly defined timeline for transitioning back to PA control is seen as a potential hindrance to gaining acceptance for the proposal among Palestinians and Arab leaders. Interestingly, this vagueness, coupled with Blair's involvement, could act as a source of comfort for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The White House perceives the new initiative as a middle ground between Donald Trump's earlier vision for an outright U.S. and Israeli takeover of Gaza and the diplomatic New York Declaration, supported by over 140 nations. Trump's previous remarks, suggesting that the U.S. and Israel might forcibly displace Palestinians, have drawn accusations of ethnic cleansing for the 2 million residents of Gaza. However, reports indicate that the current proposal explicitly does not encourage Palestinians to leave. A broad version of the U.S.-supported initiative was discussed at a meeting in New York with influential leaders, including Qatar's emir and the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia and Jordan. Trump noted the meeting's positive outcome, stating, "We're close to getting some kind of deal done." Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron attempts to mediate between the two competing proposals, aiming to find a unified approach. Arab nations have made it clear that they would only contribute to a UN-sanctioned international peacekeeping force if a concrete political roadmap toward establishing a Palestinian state is set forth. Some critics might argue that Blair's plan does not create a solid path to statehood and could represent a different form of occupation that is less harsh than the existing situation under Israel. Gita would include a board comprising 7 to 10 members, featuring at least one qualified Palestinian representative, possibly from the business or security sectors, a high-ranking UN official, and internationally recognized figures with experience in executive roles or finance, ensuring strong Muslim representation as well. Reporting directly to the Executive Secretariat will be a group of 5 commissioners tasked with overseeing essential areas of governance in Gaza: humanitarian issues, reconstruction, legislation and legal matters, and security, along with PA coordination. A notable aspect of the proposal includes a commissioner dedicated to humanitarian affairs, responsible for collaborating with humanitarian organizations, including the contentious Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a group that many Arab nations and aid agencies insist should be disbanded. The PA Coordination Commissioner will ensure that the decisions made by Gita align with those of the PA, facilitating a gradual unification of Palestinian territories. This individual will also monitor the PA's reform efforts while working alongside international donors and Arab partners dedicated to strengthening Palestinian institutions. In addition, a separate Palestinian Executive Authority, PEA, is designed to engage directly with the local Palestinian population, delivering services through a professional, non-partisan administration. The PEA will be led by a CEO appointed by the Gita board and responsible for various ministries covering health, education, finance, infrastructure, judicial matters, and welfare. Local service delivery will involve Gaza municipalities, which will handle governance at the community level, as well as a Gaza civil police force composed of nationally recruited, professionally vetted officers committed to upholding public order and protecting civilians. Furthermore, a judicial board led by an Arab legal expert will oversee Gaza's courts and public prosecution. To alleviate concerns about potential mass displacement of Palestinians during the rebuilding process, a property rights preservation unit is to be established, aimed at guaranteeing that any voluntary departures do not jeopardize the rights of return or property ownership for those leaving Gaza. In a significant address to the UN General Assembly, PA President Mahmoud Abbas asserted that Hamas would have no part in governing Gaza following the conflict. A crucial stipulation for both Israel and the United States. However, it's pertinent to note that Abbas and the PA currently govern only the West Bank, lacking direct involvement in Gaza's ceasefire negotiations or post-war planning. Abbas emphasized that Gaza is an integral component of the Palestinian state, expressing willingness to assume full responsibility for governance and security in the region. Due to visa issues, Abbas delivered his remarks via video link after the U.S. revoked his visa, prior to the 80th session of the UN General Assembly. As the day concluded at the White House, Trump firmly dismissed any notions of Israel annexing parts of the West Bank, stating, "I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. Nope, I won't allow it. It's not going to happen." But here's where it gets controversial. How do you feel about Tony Blair's potential involvement in Gaza's governance? Do you think a foreign figure is the right choice, or should the leadership come entirely from the Palestinian people? Share your thoughts below.